Just enjoy the beats.
All right, hello everybody. So this is RamonJ TV. Welcome back to a new segment of my channel, which is going to be the RamonJ podcast, where we're going to have a new guest every time, or at least most of the time have different guests, different topics, whatever. But this is the first time that we're doing this. This is my first time ever doing this at all, as well as my dad here, who will introduce himself in a moment. But right now, this is just the little test run. I mean, let me know what you guys think. Give me some topics, things like that. And yeah, so let's get into this. So my guest for today's podcast is going to be my father. So, Father, if you will please introduce yourself to the people.
Well, thank you. That's an honor, privilege to be here. So yes, I am his father, his dad, Raymond Senior, of course. But yeah, I'm excited that he's getting this started. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to go or how it's going to progress. But hopefully you guys that are watching will be able to support him and, give him the encouragement that he needs to get this going. So, and it's, like I said, it's an honor and a privilege for me to be here and with your first podcast and be here to initiate this. So, yeah.
So yeah, all right. So that's my dad and everything like that. And again, yeah, I'm gonna try and make these podcasts like a weekly thing if possible. If not, at least a bi-weekly. We're gonna see whatever works best out. And I'm still gonna be posting my regular videos. I know I haven't been posting in forever and everything like that, but things have been a little wild with me moving from where I was to a new place and getting a new job. So there's gonna be plenty of videos of me showing all of that and explaining all of that. But for now, we're gonna get into this. And so basically, for today's topic, we're gonna be answering a few questions that some guys have just about different things. And it's a segment that I'm going to call Old School versus New School. So we're going to get these questions. My father here being the old school, not that he's old, but he's going to answer in what his mindset is as an older gentleman. And I'm going to answer as to what I think, sort of in the younger generation. So, first question here is we've got from Oscar. They don't say their ages or anything like that. It's more anonymous. So we've got Oscar here, and he's got a question. He says, so I met this woman, and she has 3 children. I have never had any children of my own. However, I really like this woman. What's the best route for me to take into jumping into this kind of relationship? All right. So yeah, I guess what we'll do is we'll start with my dad here. What's your input as far as what you think Oscar should do as far as approaching this situation?
Well, that's an interesting question, and what's even more interesting is that this woman, and of course we don't know what age we're looking at here, but I mean, regardless of that, one thing that you need to remember and keep in mind is that anytime you're going to approach a woman, especially if she has kids, is that you're going to approach not only her, but her kids as well. I mean, you need to always be conscious of that fact that the kids are going to be part of the relationship. Yes, of course, you want to have that bond and that relationship with her, which is natural. But at the same time, you need to also keep in mind and remember, the kids are going to be part of the package. And you also need to remember that, her kids are going to come first, before before any other guy. She's going to, look after her, her kids. And so you need to be, conscious of that fact that, sometimes there's going to be times where she may not, reply to a text right away or answer a phone call right away, or, she may not be available, every weekend, to go out, things of that nature, So, I mean, that's just something that I would say that you need to keep in mind that, it's I mean, essentially it's a package deal, So if you want to truly develop a relationship with her, I mean, if you're really interested in her and want to, for the long term, we're not talking, just, like a one night stand type of thing. I mean, if you're really interested in her and really want to build relationship with her, you have to keep in mind and remember that, the kids are going to be part of it too, and so, you're going to start off with her, talking to her, getting to know her as well. But, at the same time, ask her, about the kids, throw in a question, hey, how are the kids doing, and things of that nature. And, if she shares anything with you about them, which at the beginning she may not, but, towards the end, as the relationship progresses, she may, kind of share a little more about the kids, and so celebrate with her and their successes, and the things that, that she's sharing, they got an award or, they did good on a paper, or, whatever, things of that nature. But, take it slow, but just remember that, the kids are going to be, her priority more than you will. So just, I would say, from my perspective, I would say just keep that in mind. Remember that. But yeah.
Yeah, so what's interesting with this question is that this is actually something that I've also kind of experienced myself. I dated a girl that had a son with somebody else, and she was around my age, a couple years younger. And so the thing about it was, like what you were saying, is that when I jumped into, or not when I jumped into the relationship, but rather whenever I first began talking to this girl, I was focusing more on getting to know her and solely on getting to know her and being with her. I knew she had her son, but it was like I was more focused in building something with her, and I wasn't really realizing that once I, assuming that I would get in a relationship with her, that then the son was also going to come along with it.
Right.
And so therefore, as me and this girl started hitting it off and, we were hanging out and getting to know each other. And then when we finally did end up getting together, then, then I realized how much more the son was going to be around, you know what I mean? Because in the stage of us just talking and hanging out, it was always just us two,
Right.
And things like that. But once it became an actual relationship and I was going over to her house and things like that, then her son was actually there.
Yeah.
And so therefore it was, it was, and it became that, she would give him attention first and she would give to me, which I understood, and at first, like I was like, it is what it is, and,
Right.
and, I mean, that relationship ended for, reasons other than that. Like, that wasn't the problem. But the biggest thing is that, I had to adapt, to realize that, if I was going to want to stay with her forever and build something with her, I was going to have to accept her son as well. And being there for him, as a potential stepdad,
Right.
So, like, that's the biggest thing that you have to look into is that if you're going to pursue a full relationship with this woman, you have to think of it as that. And that way also is that you're going to be a potential stepfather to these kids, and you have to be able to build a relationship with them to where they see you in that way, and they don't just see you as some random guy that's coming around every now and then.
Yeah.
And so, because that's another thing too is, I mean, like, we don't know again how old these kids are. So I mean, if they're younger, then you have that better chance of building something from the jump.
Yeah.
Now, if the kids are older, or say she has younger kids and older kids, the harder part I feel is going to be with the older kids. I just feel like it'd be harder for an older kid to then accept a new father in his life,
Right.
especially if he still is on that good term with his biological father.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we don't know the story again, so we don't know if the biological father, left and they don't like him per se, or it could have just been something that happened between the parents, but the kids are still cool with both parents.
Right.
And if there's older kids, then they're still going to have a tie to that father, so it's going to be harder for them to accept you coming in as a stepfather. So, so I mean, I've never been in that type of situation, but I would say that in my opinion, that's probably what I would do. I would definitely focus on really getting a bond with the kids as much as I am with her, to where I'm showing them, like, I'm not just here for her, like, I'm trying to be a part of y'all's lives.
Right. Yeah.
So,
And that's the thing is that a lot of times, a lot of guys, they'll just focus on her, and because she's looking for someone, for her, for herself, somebody who's going to be there for her. But at the same time, she's also looking for someone that she's going to feel comfortable to allow them to be around her kids. And so that's why that's why I was saying it's important, to build that relationship with her, start getting to know her, and a lot of women, they won't bring her kids around you, at the very beginning. They might mention, yeah, I have, like in this example, I have 3 kids, but they won't bring the kids around you, and it's not because, they don't, that they're that they want to keep the kids a secret. It's more that they want to protect the kids, because if for whatever reason it doesn't work out between, you two, man and woman, then if she's already brought the kids in, then all of a sudden you're not going to be around anymore. And so that's going to affect them as well. So a lot of times the women will tend to kind of, keep the kids, separate, but if you know that the kids exist, right, ask about them, whenever you go on a date, or whatever, ask, hey, how are the kids, and that way she can start building that trust and building and starting to realize that, you're not just interested in her, but, you're interested in her kids as well. And so, slowly, she'll start coming around and, and she'll talk about her kids, and, before you know it, she'll introduce you to the kids as well. And, you can start building that relationship with them as well, and, take them out, as a family, whenever you go on your next date, right? And maybe, and that's another thing to think about too, is that, a lot of times, you might ask the girl, hey, you want to get together this weekend? And she might be like, well, I'd love to, but, I don't have anybody to watch the kids, so that's where then you can kind of come in and offer the suggestion, don't force her, but offer the suggestion and say, well, bring the kids along.
Right.
And so that way she can be like, oh, okay, so, that way, she can kind of start building that trust and getting to know that, you're interested, not just in her, but like I said, it's a package deal, and you got to remember that. Right.
I think another good tip, or another good tip would be to kind of do your research, and figuring out, like if she's been through this process of dating new guys before you, because another thing could be that, say she's already been through this process with other guys before, and they got close to the kids and then left.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to think about that too, where the kids themselves could also be used to seeing their mom bringing in a guy and then he leaves them, just like their first father did,
Right.
by chance.
Right.
So you got to look at all those different things to really know what kind of approach you want to take, and I think another thing too is, before you really start shooting to really like get to know the kids, make sure you really get to know the girl or woman first.
Yeah.
Because, although you may be using the kids, basically what I'm saying, don't use the act of trying to get close to the kids as a bait to get her to think, oh, he's the one.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly, for sure. Yeah.
Rather than doing that, because you got to make sure that you really love this woman to where you can see yourself making this your family.
Yeah.
Because if you do it like that and you jump into it, like, you bait her with the whole taking the kids everywhere thing, and then you end up together, and then you start to realize this isn't what I want.
Right.
Especially if you're somebody who doesn't have, he doesn't have kids himself, so he's not going to see any issue with suddenly being like, oh, this ain't for me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Gone. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
To him, he's got nothing to lose.
Right.
And so I think that's the biggest thing, is that you got to make sure that she's really the one for you, to where basically if you can see that you would want kids of your own with this woman, then you can start to see that you'd want that family with her.
Yeah.
Rather than, trying to use the kids as a bait to kind of get her to like you more.
Yeah.
When you don't really know much about the kids.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, good point.
All right, so Oscar, hope that answers your question.
Yep.
you can hit us back if there's anything more you want us to touch up on.
Mhm.
Alrighty. And so, next question is, what do we got here? Next question is from a Mr. Ryan, and he actually put his age here. He's actually 29. So his question is that he's been talking to this girl. He says, okay, so I've met this girl, and we've been hitting it off pretty well. The only problem is that she is 19 and I am 29. So what is the best way for me to approach things to not come off as, quotes, pedophile-ish with this girl out in public? Any advice is great. Okay, so Ryan, well, we appreciate you actually giving us a little more info on the age difference there. So Ryan here, his issue is he's 29, the girl's 19.
Yeah.
Obviously, it is legal. Yeah. She is an adult, but in today's society, you can really see how a lot of people will see it as, something different.
Yeah.
Because a lot of 18-year-old, 19-year-old girls today, they may not look like they're that age already.
Right.
And so that could be a potential problem. So I see where you're coming from, Ryan. So, like I said, I'm going to let my dad start this one off. I don't really know what to say. I'm trying to think of what to say. I'm trying to stall here and trying to think of like a good way to answer this because I really don't know. I mean, never kind of been in that kind of situation. So I guess Dad, what would you do if you were to come across a younger woman?
Well, at my age, I'd be happy. But that's another podcast.
Right.
No, I think it's important to, of course, acknowledge, that there is an age difference. Because not only is there going to be an age difference, as far as the numbers, but there's also going to be a difference in
mental state,
maturity.
That's what I was thinking.
There's gonna be that difference. So that's something else that you gotta think about. For example, Ryan here, he's 29. The girl that he's thinking about, talking to or whatever, she's 19. So it's a 10-year difference. And like I said, or like you said, the pedophile aspect, some people might think that, but the truth, that she's an adult, so you don't have to worry about that. But you have to keep in mind and remember that she's 19. So with her being 19, she may have a different level of maturity than what you do as being 29. So that's something else you got to think about is that, what are you thinking about? What are you looking at? Because by the age of 29, normally, under normal circumstances, you've already probably gone to college. I don't know if you have or not. But let's just say, for example, that he's gone on to college. He probably has a degree by now. I don't know. And even if he hasn't gone to college or anything like that, he probably has a pretty good job by now, probably, I would think, by that age, whereas her being 19, that means more than likely she probably just graduated from high school, maybe a year ago at most, depending on, how old she was when she started school. Maybe she just graduated high school. I don't know. So you got to look at that. So that means that she's barely looking at what she wants to do with her life.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe she's just now thinking about going to college,
right?
Or not going, or whatever the case may be,
right?
So you got to look at all that as well. What's her mentality? What is she thinking? As opposed to what you're thinking and what you've already gone through. Because for a guy being by the age of 29, usually you're already looking at settling down by that age.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't already. Mm-hmm. And like I said, she probably just graduated high school, so she's probably not looking at getting settled down just yet, because she probably, if she's looking at going to college, she probably wants to go to college, live that college life, that single life, have fun,
Mm-hmm.
Things of that nature. So that's something you got to think about,
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
figure out, okay, what is she wanting to do? What is she wanting to accomplish? What are you wanting to do? What are you wanting to accomplish? And where's the common ground,
Right.
if
Right.
there is any?
Yeah.
Because if there's not any common ground, then you have nothing to build on.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know.
for sure. I think the same thing. And I think a big point, the biggest point, I think, is the whole college thing. If she is planning on going to college, or if she is in college, I don't
Yeah.
know. The biggest thing is that, especially in colleges, especially if she's in like a university or like she's on a campus college, like this
Right.
ain't just no community college, like where she
Yeah.
lives on campus,
Yeah.
this type of stuff.
Right.
Because the thing about that is that you got to understand in that aspect, you could ask any college kid this. I didn't go to college myself, but all my friends who did, I know from them that, college definitely changes you a lot in that aspect of freedom.
Yeah.
Because I've got plenty of friends who were in relationships in high school, and when they got to college, they ended up splitting up because of the fact that you meet so many new people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's such a new environment.
Yeah.
As opposed to high school. So like you got more parties going on, you
Yeah.
got more influences going
Mhm.
on. So like
Yeah.
you're more, you're more prone to giving in to certain things.
Yeah.
And so if she is in college or if she's looking into going into college, then yeah, you really got to look into that, because you got to understand that once she does get there, she's going to be surrounded with a whole bunch of guys
Yeah.
that are her age
Mm-hmm.
or around her age.
Yeah.
And she may then realize, oh, I've been messing with the old bull. Now I want the young steed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
stuff like, so
Yeah.
you got to think about that for sure. Like, now I'm not saying that she's that type of girl either. This isn't to say that she is
Right.
a bad girl or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
If you guys have been hitting this off for a while, I don't know how long you've been talking to each other, but if it's been this long, maybe, maybe she's got her eyes set on, maybe she's into older guys,
Mhm.
maybe she won't give into that, but it's just something to look at and look into and to really,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not saying this in a way to where come at her, putting pressure on her,
Right.
like if she does go to college or if she is in college, don't be putting all this pressure on her, like, oh, you're going to be messing with all these different guys. And don't
Mhm.
become that jealous type. Don't become
Right.
that type that's going to start putting tabs on her and giving her ultimatums and stuff like that.
Right.
So, and my advice to you, if you see yourself thinking that way, then you may want to back off of her and second guess what you really want for yourself.
Yeah.
Because the biggest thing is that because she's so young and she is just trying to start her own life,
Mm-hmm.
and if that's going to start putting that much more pressure on you already, who's to say things won't, turn out worse later on.
Right.
So, there's different things to look at it, but I think that's the biggest thing to look into is that aspect there,
Mhm.
because I can really see how that can be an issue. Now, as far as the whole, like, looking like a pedophile type of thing, it's like my dad said, the truth. She's 19, no matter how young she looks,
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, sure, if you being 29, I don't know if you look older or if you look your age, you may
Mhm.
look younger.
Yeah.
People may not even notice.
Mhm.
So, that's the biggest thing. And it's and then it's all the maturity level too. If you're 29, so I can almost guarantee you're a lot more mature already than what you once were.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is if she's not, and say you're out in public and, she's acting like she's your daughter,
Yeah.
then yeah, you may want to look into something
Yeah,
different.
for
Because and what I mean by that is like if she's acting like she's still a little girl, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like
Yeah.
if she hasn't matured
Right.
into where she's acting like a woman,
Mm-hmm.
then yes, you're not gonna look like you're a couple. You're gonna look like you're either her dad or her older brother
Right.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess as far as for your question on how to not seem pedophile-ish, my best thing is like as long as you two know, you know the truth, y'all two know your boundaries, and y'all have, a common ground between each other,
Mm-hmm.
Then who cares what other people think and what they say?
Yeah.
Because at least, you're in the right. You know what I'm saying? Ultimately.
Yeah.
But again, if it all comes down to to those bigger factors.
Yeah.
Is like, and I know that none of that was part of your question, but
Yeah.
those are definitely things that you'd have to look into. Those are bigger problems for you to worry about than worrying about other people seeing you and thinking she's underage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and and I guess I should clarify, and I'm not sure if I did or not in my answer, but I was looking at it from the point of that, they just met,
right.
and so, I think you brought up the point, that maybe they've already been talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, you might have, some sort of, some sort of relationship, some sort of bond already started with her.
Yeah.
And that's going to make a difference as well, because if you've known her, if y'all are from the same town, for example,
Right.
and, I guess like us, we're from, I get, my hands get moving a lot sometimes, like if you're from a small town like we are, and everybody knows everybody, right?
Right.
And so, you're looking at a 10-ish year difference, and maybe y'all grew up in the same town. And so you've known her family, you've known her. And so you might have a different outlook as to the type of person that she is. So that's going to make a difference as well. My answer had to do with, being able to, or look at it from the perspective of that they just met. And so that was what I was coming from. But you brought up those points, and so I was like, well, that's going to make a difference.
Yeah.
If they already have some sort of relationship already started.
Yeah. So definitely. Before. So yeah, definitely. So Ryan, again, if y'all have just met, then yes, there's a lot more things to look into.
Yeah.
If you've known each other, then like I said, you might already have that common ground built up, and things will be all right. But all those other topics are still really important for you to look into because of the fact that she's still so young.
Yeah.
Because on the legal side, we have to assume that y'all have only known each other for at least a year.
You're right.
Because we have to assume, assume that you didn't start talking to her till she was 18.
Right.
So, so there's that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, as long as everything is A-okay not only between you two, but also between the families.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've really hit it off with her parents, but that's going to be another big factor too, because they're going to see the age difference in there. To them, she's only 19, fresh out of high school.
Yeah.
To them, she's still their little girl.
Yeah, she's still the baby.
And exactly. And so them seeing, this 29, almost 30-year-old, you definitely want to make sure that you're hitting common ground with the parents, making sure they understand, what your main intentions are, like what you're really doing, and also where you're at in life. I mean, it's going to be really difficult for you to really win over the family, if you're not doing anything.
Right.
Or if you're just working at McDonald's.
Right.
Not to hate on that, what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely the biggest thing is your own maturity level and where you're at in life.
Yeah.
And on that note, again, we have very little info. We don't ask for a whole lot on these questions, but a big thing would be if you're very wealthy and you're doing really well in your life right now, there is that possibility that this young 19-year-old could be taking advantage of you.
That is possible. Yeah.
And so, again, not to say that she's a bad person. I don't know this girl. I don't know but I'm giving you the tips and the thoughts to put into your own head to start looking into these things. Again, we don't want you to go crazy and start questioning everything.
Right.
We're giving you these ideas that way you can kind of know what you need to look into as far as figuring out for this relationship.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a big factor to look into.
Yeah. Yeah. And it may not affect you at all,
Right. You may be perfectly fine with that.
You may be like, no, that's not even a factor, and that's great. But like Junior says, we're just throwing all these different perspectives out because again, we really don't know the extent of the relationship.
Right.
So we're kind of looking at it from different angles and just kind of throwing you some ideas out there, and hopefully, out of one of those, your question, your question is answered, and you're able to piece it together and come up with something that's workable for your situation. But yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. So we're already hitting, about 25, close to 30 minutes. So I think this is going to be a good closing spot for this first podcast. Again, this was just that test era, the test trial. We're gonna we're gonna figure things out better,
Oh yeah.
And again, hit me guys with like different topics you'd like for me or my dad to talk about. If you enjoy seeing us together, or and then as I have new guests on every now and then, we'll figure it out from there, and
Yeah.
we'll just keep building from here. And
Yeah.
so I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, guys, hope this answered y'all's questions, and I hope this helped out. These questions and everything isn't just for them. I mean, we're giving these tips out for anybody out there that's going through any type of similar scenarios and things like that. So
definitely.
so even if this any of this kind of what's the word, matches with something relates to you. Yeah, relates. If anything that we talked about kind of relates to anything similar that you're going to, and you feel you want to reach out to one of us, then yeah, go ahead. Perfectly.
Yep.
We can definitely help you out with anything. Again, this is my dad, so I'm gonna have him, or I'm gonna have his information, his Facebook and stuff linked down below in case you'd like to. I guess if any of you older folk maybe want to, kind of want to relate to the older side,
Right.
any of you younger guys want to talk to me, anything like that, or vice versa, don't really matter. But I'm just, but his stuff will be down below if you want to contact him in any way. Add him on the gram and everything and such. And so we'll end it here, and hope you guys really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys in the next one.
All right. I'll be careful.